Justin Gaethje is a monster. He's a monster. He's a terrifying individual. He is, in a sport that's violent, it's an inherently violent sport, he stands out as the most violent.
Say that before. So I would think that as long as you can fucking lace up a pair of gloves, you're gonna do it. Because that's what you do.
It's what I do at 2 a.m., but again, I've been doing this shit since I was 4 years old, competing in competition, wrestling, and then into this. But there's no reason for me to put myself in these positions without having one goal, and that's the championship, being number one in the world, proving that I'm the best in the world at this weight class. And outside that, I'll go sell houses, write loans, who knows?
Yeah.
Work in a mine if I have to.
It's hard not to miss the Khabib era of the lightweight division. It was a time of truly historic proportions, where it seemed like we were witnessing history unfolding with every walk the Eagle made to the cage. Indeed, having Islam Makhachev sitting atop the 155-pound division is a pretty great replacement, as was Charles Oliveira before him. But I don't know, there was just something about Khabib. And though we didn't know it at the time, his UFC 254 matchup with Justin Gaethje was actually going to be his last as a pro MMA fighter. In the lead up to the bout, Nurmagomedov was respectful to Justin's resume, giving him props for his work in the UFC, his time in PFL, and in particular, his performance against Tony Ferguson, calling a win over the highlight and important one over his own legacy.
He finished a lot of opponents, a lot of great guys. And he finished all of them, and he was a great champion in other organizations before UFC. Right now he champion in UFC interim champ. He beat Tony Ferguson. I think beat a guy like Justin Gaethje is gonna be big for my legacy.
And sure enough, Khabib would not be denied on fight night. After eating just a few hard leg kicks, Nurmagomedov pounced, finding his way to the mat with Justin before slicing through his guard at the end of the first round. When the second round came, finding the takedown again was just too easy. A triangle choke won it for him in the end, leaving Khabib with a perfect 29-0 record and his final UFC Octagon victory. Post-fight, the Eagle once again was respectful to Justin, telling the world that he was the hardest puncher he had ever faced.
This guy, he hit like truck, like nobody hit harder than Justin Gaethje.
But once he was able to drag him into deep waters, Gaethje would have no chance, just like the rest of them. When Michael Chandler got there with the great Justin Gaethje, he was coming off of a rough loss to Charles Oliveira, a fight that saw him have a great deal of success in the first round. In fact, Chandler came just about as close as a fighter could come to getting his hand raised, hurting Charles badly in that opening round. But as we all know, Do Bronx is not the kind of fighter to sit down and take a loss. And in the second, he managed to find Chandler's chin with a precise shot, putting him down to win the vacant belt. Chandler was in good spirits though when his next fight was announced, and he made a good point of giving his future opponent Justin Gaethje props for his reputation as one of the most exciting fighters the sport has ever known.
That's where your character is really tested. That's where your mettle is really tested in those moments of defeat where you can pull yourself back up. And now I get another opportunity against another top guy in the world, arguably the most exciting guy in mixed martial arts in general, against Justin Gaethje on Saturday night. So the stage is set for another phenomenal night.
Well, on fight night, this bout delivered, and then some. If there was such a thing as falling under the spell of a Justin Gaethje fight, well, that's exactly what happened to Michael Chandler inside the cage. After going at an insane pace, Chandler threw all caution to the wind in the third round, putting his hands down and calling on Gaethje to hit him, walking forward like a madman absorbing blows. It was one hell of a scrap, and when Chandler was asked about his fight by Daniel Cormier, he admitted that he kind of lost sight of his desire to win in there.
Man, yeah, it probably wasn't the smartest of ideas, especially
Why'd
against a
you
guy
do
like
that?
Justin Gaethje. Well, I think it was just, I think I was caught up in the moment. It's definitely the first time in my career that I didn't care whether I won or lost for some reason. You know, I also didn't hear my coaches for the entire 15 minutes. Madison Square Garden was so loud. It was absolutely bananas inside there. You know, you were in there. But it was just, usually as wrestlers, we've been our coaches. Could not hear a thing, so I was out there by myself, unfortunately. And when I'm left to my own devices, it's a lot of ill-advised things happen, but they were entertaining. So the fans won that fight.
A lot of the focus during fight week leading up to Charles Oliveira's 155-pound title defense against Justin Gaethje came down to the champ's weight miss and how he was stripped of the belt. But Do Bronx made a point of reminding the world that he was still the champ, and that it would be foolish to take his focus off of a fighter like Justin Gaethje. In the end, the pair engaged in a one-round classic, where both men had their moments before Oliveira dropped and finished Justin with a deft submission. Post-fight, Charles did not shy away from admitting that he was hurt, and that when Gaethje kept advancing, he made a tactical decision to simply flop to his back to give himself time to recover. Oliveira knew that Gaethje wouldn't dare follow him to the mat, out of respect for his ground game. But his words spoke volumes about the respect that he has for the striking and the power of the highlight, even though he knew the finish was on its way as soon as he landed on Gaethje's chin. Some matchups just jump off the page. And when the UFC announced Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev as the UFC 286 co-main event, the fans knew for certain that there would be fireworks. Coming into this bout, there were a lot of questions over the miles on Gaethje's tank, and whether a hard-handed, rock-chinned brawler like Fiziev would finally be the one to make him look his age. But Rafael himself was perfectly humble in his pre-fight interviews, speaking mainly about how honored he was to share the cage with a legend of a sport like Gaethje. In his mind, going back-to-back with a pair of icons like Rafael dos Anjos and Justin is his idea of a good time. And ahead of this barn-burner main card attraction, Fiziev seemed excited more than anything else. Look, the fight was a tightly contested war, and on any given night, either man could have gotten their hand raised. In the end, the victory went Justin's way, with the judges favoring his work in the second and third round, as he slowly started to figure out Fiziev while his opponent lost stamina. But the most important thing was that yet again, we had another Justin Gaethje war that lived up to expectations. Another bona fide classic, a masterpiece in violence that left little doubt as to who the most exciting fighter in the sport is. Fiziev himself made it clear that it was nothing short of an honor to share the cage with a veteran like Gaethje. And judging from this tweet, it seemed like Fiziev enjoyed himself, despite the boatload of damage the highlight was able to dish out. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to click the bell to be notified of future videos.